Steve from Mad Dog Cycles here with a few tips and tricks for removing and reinstalling the front wheel on a few of the most popular Electra Townie bicycle models. What these all have in common is cable-operated brakes, but there's a few different things represented here. First, over here we have linear pull brakes. Then here we have a disc brake. And finally here we have a generator front hub that has an electrical connection that we have to disconnect before we can take off the front wheel. So on a linear pull front brake, what we need to do first is release the brake by first squeezing the arms, pulling on the cable noodle, and then pressing it out of the retainer. That opens up the brake to make space to take out the front wheel. Then I'm going to reach down and open the lever and then loosen the nut enough that it gets past these ridges that help keep the wheel in case you forget to tighten it enough. Then I'm going to lift it up by the handlebar stem and lift the wheel out. Then I'm going to kick the kickstand up and gently set the bike down on the fork legs. This is alternative to having to turn the whole bike upside down and scratch your seat and your grips and so on and so forth. So now to put the front wheel back in the bike, I'm going to lift the bike up by the handlebar stem, put the wheel on the ground, roll it in there, match it up with the dropouts, gently set the bike back on the wheel. Then I'm going to kick the kickstand down. Then what I like to do is I like to move in front of the bike and kind of balance it by the fork leg as I reach down here and spin the nut. And you have to spin it quite a ways because you had to clear the lips on the fork. And then I want to feel engagement with the lever pointing almost straight out, not back because that'll press on the bearings really hard and you don't want to do that. So almost straight out. I can either grab the fork or a couple of the spokes and squeeze the lever. So now that I know that the wheel is in there centered, I'm going to reattach the brake. And it's a little tricky, but you want to get that little brake noodle to go right inside that retainer. And then I'll give the wheel a spin, make sure that the brake is not rubbing, and I'm good to go. Next we have the same style brake, and it's done in the same way except on the EQ model, which has a generator driven set of lights. We have to unplug the generator hub before getting started on the rest of the process. There's a plug right here, right behind the nut. I'm going to grasp it, pull it straight out, and then repeat the process that I did with the other bike that didn't have the hub. Then when I'm done making sure the wheel is in properly and the brake doesn't rub, I'm going to reattach it and just push it in. So next we have a cable-operated disc brake. It acts a little bit differently than the linear pull brakes, but the process for loosening and tightening the lever is the same. So rather than lift the whole bike up and turn it upside down and risk scratching the controller and scuffing the seat, just like we didn't want to do before on the other bike, I'm going to leave it standing up on its kickstand to get started. So I'm going to reach down and undo the lever, and then I can lean over and undo the nut enough to clear the lips here that keep it from falling off, but I don't want to have to take it off all the way. Then I'm going to lift it off, and now you can see the gap between the brake pads on the bike. And now to reinstall the wheel in the bike, I'm going to lift it by the handlebar stem like I did on the other bike. I'm going to roll the wheel straight in, and I'm going to be patient as I match up the dropouts. And now I'm going to tighten up the nut to get started, but then I like to move in front of the bike just to make sure the wheel is centered and in there without leaning to one side. And then I'm going to turn the nut a little bit more. I want to feel engagement, not way back here, because again it will tighten, will place a lot of tension on the bearings. So I want to feel engagement when it's not quite straight out, that it's facing backwards just a little. And I'm going to bring it up like this. And then give it a spin, make sure that the brake is running between the pads without rubbing. And we're good to go. Just a reminder, when you're going to tighten the lever, you want it pointing almost straight out, but not past straight out, because that will apply too much tension to the bearings and make the wheel run rough. So I like to start it about there when I feel engagement as it starts to tighten, and then I squeeze it. If I accidentally take off the nut all the way, there's these two springs. The small end of the spring, it's like a cone, points inward as I put it back on. Those are there to help make sure that it doesn't loosen up. But the main thing is get it good and snug, but not super duper tight. So that's our primer on removing and reinstalling the front wheel on some of the more popular Electra Townie bikes that have cable-operated brakes. Let us know in the comments below if there's anything else you'd like to know. See ya!